What is this? Scientists will never tell you this. Bracket 2019 and bracket. Hmm. What is this?
Our physical reality is a shadow of a larger reality. And I was blown away when I
A shadow. A shadow? Is this Peter Pan and his shadow? What are you talking about?
first saw that, because that's exactly what the Bible's been saying all along.
The Bible is saying it's a shadow? What?
We have all been trained in Euclidean geometry, three-dimensional worlds. Einstein made
Harry Potter magic.
scientific history by recognizing that we really live in four dimensions by adding time to the mix. Time
Wow, you added time to the mix. Wow. Who knew it was life everlasting? You just wanted to keep track of it, to impose your image upon what life is. And of course, you used everything that the world showeth to do in your image. So, whoa, who knew you could inject how many timelines? I mean, the Mayans had five or whatever. You're ruled by your the calendar, the keeper of time. Whoever keeps time is the key. I mean, is the locksmith.
is a physical property. We know that we live in at least 10, that's the current dimensions. Four
Oh, now there's 10 dimensions. So we know four.
of them are
See, it's just a gamble. It's just a gamble. It's just probability upon Harry Potter magic theory. And wow, it couldn't be that life is relentlessly giving, bringing forth. Wow, no, it couldn't. It has to be that some bash 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 10, and somehow that's wow. It shows the dimensions. Wow, what are you
directly,
talking about?
uh, we can experience them. But we know there's six others that we can't get at directly, but we know we can infer their existence mathematically. What makes
We can infer their existence mathematically. Yeah, we just make it. We just make that inference, because well, you just can. In mathematical theory, anything goes, even their clothes. Wow, who knew? And apparently their minds along with it.
makes that provocative to people who've discovered that is that a Hebrew sage by the name of Nachmanides, back in the 13th century, predicted that from studying the text of Genesis. He concluded that our universe has 10 dimensions, only four are known.
Okay, so he props this guy up just because maybe he was some scientist, and then he's like, oh, the book of Genesis. If you use science to read it, wow, you can deduct this and this and that and that. So, man's image. What? It couldn't be that the word of God stands alone, and perhaps the words written through men, inferring, you could say, the wisdom of God in pen and ink, is to perhaps be a guide, not to, what is it? What is it? But it's no, just study it relentlessly and make the connections, draw the lines into geometry, and wow, 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 smash image, 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 and I could see it all. I saw it all. What are you saying?
Knowable, to use his term, and six are not knowable to us. And I find that fascinating because we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on atomic accelerators to discover what Nachmanides did by studying the text.
Oh, of course, right? Because, oh, how ridiculous. No. What is science proving? Nothing. They're just proposing things and relentlessly moving forward with it. and there's no such thing as fair representation from so-called scientists in any field, because of course they're all governed by certain institutions and peer review and this and that and smash and basically favor and in favor. What is the favor for? Because it truly is a favor. It's just uh, the gatekeepers of what you guessed it, the consensus of what people just assume science is, meaning their existence. Because wow, without science, without experiments, we would be nothing. We would just be like so ignorant. Wow, it's just just nothing. Well, you already believe in nothing, so what are you bashing about?
So some say 11. There's some debates among mathematicians about details.
Oh, there's debate amongst mathematicians. What? Who gives a damn? Wow. And of course, wow, so sophisticated. Wow, yes, more light, more pump code, yes, in it, out, and it's just an if and then and this and what, whoa, just bash.
But there's awareness within the advanced
There's awareness. Wow, he's being recorded.
scientific community that we live in more than just the four dimensions that we directly
Call it the swarm. Because at this point, you're just calling things whatever you want and saying, wow, it's so amazing. Who knew light was so amazing? What are you saying? That somehow science is going to bring everybody to realize all of a sudden the Word of God? No. Because the Word of God does not say anything about worshiping the light.
experience. If we take those things that are larger than us, larger than man's reach, and just lump that and call that the macrocosm.
Oh, the macrocosm, and what? The infinitely small and the infinitely big? What are you talking about? Oh, yes, it's unifying all of it together. Wow. It couldn't be life everlasting, and that be it. No, it has to be this warp of a swarm idea of Harry Potter magic that is so amazing to look at. Wow. Who knew it was a sphere with a bunch of things that just string it together? Wow. Smashed. Smashed by the light.
We suddenly are confronting astronomy, astrophysics, those kinds of things. The great discovery of 20th century science.
All this because there is an apparent fantasy of wanting to control it all. That once you come to see it, wow, you can then harness it. Wow. Wow. What bash. What bash. What absolute bash.
Is that the universe is finite. It may be expanding, but it's finite.
Oh, it's finite. You mean you're mortal, dust to dust? Wow, what a concept. Whoa. What bash. And then that all started with light. No. God spoke light into being. And it was good.
And that has staggering implications. That means it has a beginning, and it'll ultimately have an end. And that's what gives rise to these conjectures that go under the label of the Big Bang theories. There's four of them. None of them quite.
Right, there's four of them. Oh, who knew? Who knew that just by saying, yeah, I believe in science, they actually have a smash belief in four possible ones. And you might say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's just one of them. So, I mean, how many people knew that there was four theories about the Big Bang? I mean, of course, you've seen the diagrams and the bash and this and that. But it's basically saying, yeah, I believe in that, but even then, there's four possible, theories to choose from. And it almost gives you a false sense of like, whoa, that's fair. But no, because the premise is no, believe in light and that's it. And yeah, there's 4 days.
Satisfactory, but that's the common conjecture, if you will. The point being that's an acknowledgement of the fact that we're dealing with a finite universe that had an origin. But the
Whoa, who knew? What a concept. I mean, it's astounding, like this cloud of something, and to just see how people just assume they know the simplest questions that you could probably argue that have been relentlessly beaten to death. You know, like, who are you? Where are you? And what are you doing? Where do you come from? And what is this? What, those simple just questions, but everyone's just going about as if they knew and they owned everything, and they're just going along with something they don't understand, but yet they're getting the best of whatever it is that they think they're doing. Always working, trying their best. For what? To give your life purpose, meaning, you know, because you believe you're dust and you were just, wow, that you're just hamburger meat and a mash of chemicals and all this bash. Who knew that in this finite, quote unquote, universe you believe in, it would be so fine tuned that day in, day out happens relentlessly without you having to do anything? And it's just bash to believe that, oh, it's just a result of light and then billions and millions and Harry Potter numbers of exponentials of years and catastrophes of bash and bish and bash. Of course, you believe in that. That's why you live bash and you accept it. Always, patting yourself on the shoulder for, being so relentlessly, clever and, astute and just able to just manipulate others and, situations all to be in your favor and this and that. Wow. What bash. No wonders everybody is just bashed and bashing others and themselves. Well, who knew everybody was just in it for themselves, just trying to glorify themselves and do best for who they say they love. What bash. All the while waving the flag of universal love and Gaia and all this nonsense when it's just division upon division, all sold to you as an emotional state of comfort and just acceptance and false love and all this nonsense. And of course, just creating all these pockets of just spash that are smashing and bashing. Wow, who knew?
the fact that it's finite is my point at the moment. If we go the other way, looking at what's smaller than man, call that the microcosm, that gets even weirder, because you and I would think that if we
Oh, it's so weird. It's so weird. It's just, everybody believes that you're in and out relentlessly, and even though it appears solid, it's just light. Whoa. Yet there's flesh, right? So if there were no light, what happens? You say, oh, well, that means the sun is gone and the world is just death. Hmm. Heaven and earth were created before light. So what was going on? It's not like, oh, without light, what? There's heaven and earth still. So what's going on? What's going on? What are you saying? Infinitely small means what? It all comes down to light and it's just in and out, in and out. So you can just split light and split light, but who knows?
we took, say, a length, a piece of string or something, and we cut it in half, we would take whatever we have left and cut it in half again. And at least, maybe not physically, but conceptually, you think we could, whatever we have left, we could cut in half. It turns out, we discover, shockingly,
Wow.
that when you get 10 to the minus 33 centimeters,
Oh, who knew? Victimhood of the 33rd degree. Of course, he could not wait.
and you try to divide that, what we have there loses a property called locality.
Whoa, it loses a property called locality, so then it's just unlocatable. It's just like a murmur and a whisper. What are you saying? And of course, look, all this Harry Potter magic. Yes, 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 yes. Believe.
And that there's a term in physics of a characteristic called look.
Of course, the red and you guessed it, the blue. This is light worship, yin yang, bam bam, ping ping pong ching, and this is what bash. The fire and ice, fire and ice. Whoa, whoa, whoa! The moon and the sun, blah blah blah.
Locality. And that observation has actually been proven in the laboratory. In 1987, they actually demonstrated non-locality. Every photon in the universe somehow is directly connected to every other photon.
Oh, the twins. You know, the defiant brothers. All this bash. What is this? Light worship.
And that defies our normal thinking of space, if you will. But the point I'm getting at is we live in what we call physical reality has a limit in smallness, and we call it the Planck wall, because whether it's length, mass, energy, or time, it's made up of units that you can't divide.
Oh, it's invisible. It's just it's not even there. It's just whoa, 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 whoa. Of course, look, just blasting one another, just stopping each other relentlessly. What is this? This does nothing to actually. I mean, think of wow. Who knew that electricity you could put light into little tiny machines and wow, they could do things. But what is this? This is fantasy on theory, on some things that they think that they're observing, but even themselves say, "Wow, experiments, you know, are affected by the observer." Wow. So what's going on? And of course, just so beautifully, somehow the light is proving somehow some correlation to you guessed it, the dialogue of what union with the Father means that they call religion. But it's just the world's religion over man, not man's religion union with the Father.
So there's a limit to smallness. There's a limit to largeness. So what we discover we're
Oh, we're in the middle. Oh, yeah.
what we call physical reality is a digital simulation.
Oh, he could not wait. He could not wait. It's a digital simulation. Of course, you have to say it. And it's all just warping in and smashing you relentlessly. Wow. Oh, who knew? I, oh, yes. It all needs a moon because, oh, yes. And it's a digital simulation. It could not be that we're in the image of God. No, it has to be a digital simulation because I wrote it down on this book and I'm printing it as we speak. Look, it says it right there. Look at all the references to other bash things. Wow, amazing.
And there was an article in Scientific American, June of 2005, which was dealing primarily with the fact that constants in physics seem to be changing, but they make the observation that's profound, that if the constants of physics are changing, that implies that our physical reality is a shadow of a larger reality.
Okay, so if the physical constants are changing, then we're a shadow. What? Of course, you had to say that.
And I was blown away when I first saw that because that's
Oh, of course you were blown away because you're Bosch. You believe in Boschhood, so you're amazed when you think other Boschhood is somehow proving and making you just think you're challenge. Oh yeah, challenge. I think how you could just bash it and manipulate and make this bash idea amazing.
That's exactly what the Bible's been saying all along.
Really? Has it?
And so that leads to a conjecture that the universe, created with 10 dimensions, something occurred to restrict us to the 4 that we experience.
So all this bash to say, wow, who knew we had a place? And there's a purpose. Who knew? Who knew the purpose was to see the truth and to endure the flesh under refuge of truth and admit you were wrong in attempting to create a life for yourself in the image of bashhood. Wow. But of course, that's the hardest thing anyone could ever do because the world is just full of false promise and false love that you just can't help yourself.
Many of us, because of passages in the Bible, Romans 8, and that in Genesis 3, when God declares war because of the fall of man, the creation was made subject to the bondage of decay, the entropy laws and all of that.
Oh, decay. Wow. If you eat from the tree of knowledge, I mean, death is sure. You shall surely die. Meaning, it's astray. There is, I mean, life is life everlasting. Anything else is astray from that. In trying to figure out life for yourself instead of living it, receiving all of it that's there. And of course, you can see around you and say, wow, you could even say there's a Harry Potter curse on man. But no, it's a swarm. And why is the swarm relentless? Because we listen to it. So of course, what are we listening to? What do you see? What are you listening? Do you hear the call? Do you hear the call of truth, the call of life, the call of the everlasting love of the Father within? What do you see?
Apparently, we're somehow tied to God's curse on everything we know about the creation is post-curse. Prior to the curse, it may have had 10 dimensions. And
Post curse. Everything we know about is post curse. And the creation was resolved. So any bash dimension you want to say or timeline, it's just, of course, it has a resolve. And the word of the Father has given what? Words of wisdom. So that you may so that you may see and read the signs and the days and the seasons and the years to endure whatever is going on. Wow, who knew? But of course, there's resolve. So there's wisdom. But no, you see the dissolution of the world, and you turn to bash philosophers in their relentless struggle with rejecting the life everlasting and creating some fantasy exploration of bashwood to relentlessly beat the living life so that I may come to just relentlessly accept that he's just flawed and just relentlessly trying to somehow return to some divinity that they know that they're imprisoned to somehow, and to just manipulate one another, and knowing that there is some sort of deep, rooted, overcoming in the succession of, the the kingship of man over earth and all this nonsense. What is going on? No man can save himself.
For someone who was fractionated. So that some of us tend to regard those 6 inaccessible dimensions as the domain of things like angels, the domain of paranormal behavior. And it's our suspicion that the UFOs somehow are trafficking from those dimensions into ours.
Oh, the UFO. Yo, they were talking about this and dimensions and that and this. The light shapeshifts. Who knew that manipulation of the light and colors and adjust the light deceiveth? Who knew? Who knew?
And that, it turns out that if you try to speak about dimensions more than 3 or 4, the average person can't relate to it without special training. There are only 2 people that really relate to that. That's mathematicians with special training or small children.
Oh.
And so, but what we can learn a lot about dimensionality by going the other way. You and I are 3-dimensional beings. Imagine if we had a 2-dimensional universe, a piece of paper or a flat plane. We could imagine at least 2-dimensional beings in there. If we had 2 of those, getting from one to the other by them would be unthinkable.
Okay, so is he saying that, maybe God wrote the Bible? Is that what he's saying? Because he could change and turn his word into just words on a 2-dimensional piece of paper? What is he saying? What is he saying?
Thinkable, but we as a 3rd-dimensional being could pick them up and move them over. To them, a miracle has happened beyond their understanding.
Of course, he's saying, of course, now it's all a matter of knowing how to manipulate it. Imagine you could just go and just intercept and just go and blast yourself in and out relentlessly, in and out, and the friction is so good.
If I, as a 3-dimensional being, put my finger through their 2-dimensional world, they wouldn't see my finger. They'd see a thing that was a ring, and then it would shrink if a ball passed through, it would appear as a dot that would become a ring. In other words, it only would be seeing the intersection of that 3-dimensional thing.
Okay, so just wordsmithing you, just bashing you, because of course it's a fantastical thing, and you can conceptualize it with shapes and this and this and this, and he's moving his hand and saying ball and ring and oh yes, right. Oh, just you would see it as a fifth thing, fifth dimension thing. You would see it as a warp thing and warp, and it comes in. All of a sudden, it's a ball, and then a ring.
With their 2-dimensional world, so we begin to get some feeling for what dimension.
Yet, you and everyone else is here day in, day out, day in, day out, and everything around you that you relentlessly bash is 2. So what are you saying? That we're bashing in and out in all dimensions, and somehow we're limited to just 4 because of, oh yeah, because that's what the Bible says. So you're just gonna talk about that just to what? What does the Bible say? What does it say? And what is the Word of God? What is it? What is it? Because what are you saying?
For example, if I have 2 beings there in that 2-dimensional world, I could put my finger a millionth of an inch away from each of them, no matter where they are. I can enjoy greater intimacy with each of them than they can with each other. So we suddenly read the whole concept of an additional dimension starts to, we get a feeling for what that might mean. The evening of the resurrection.
Right, because it's all about feeling. You could make things just so, you could hold a thing of space and show it so much intimacy, more than they could ever between themselves. Wow. Of course, because, every photon is part of every other photon, and wow, who knew it was all connected? Wow. Wow. It's the image of God. Who knew? You're in the image of God. Who knew? Yet you can call it swarms and legions of names and split and mash and theory and snash and crash and bash, tumbleweed, and kicked in the face relentlessly. And patting yourself on the back for, being, wow, this is so fantastical. Where is this going to. Of course, it leads just to further paving to the space that you want to relentlessly go to. That's it. That's the only purpose to man, just to relentlessly smash so that they can go into space, into the abyss. That's it. What else does everyone live in and day in day out for? If not just to work the same job, do the same thing, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. And say you're devoting your life to some bash idea of what you think life is and false love that you relentlessly follow and form attachments to, and that's why you cry when death occurs. And all this just horrid, just manipulation of the 33rd degree victim. And you relentlessly bash your head into corners. And as you're bleeding, you're saying, "What about the children? Oh, the children!" Wow, who knew you were so bashed? Full of spite and resentment, just and proud and just horrible. But of course, lavish with titles and experiences and just oh yes, yes, an idea of somehow fighting every day for a cause that is taking you to just closer, closer to the abyss. But of course, you love it, so why would you care?
Resurrection, they were gathered in a room, frightened, doors were locked, six-sided space, four walls, a floor and a ceiling. They're there, nervous. And who shows up right in the middle but Jesus himself? At first they're frightened, naturally, confused, thinking maybe he's a spirit or something, and he challenges them. He says,
Oh, because parents were, just so normal. What are you saying?
handle me and see. A spirit doesn't have flesh and bone as you see me have. So he, in his resurrection body, has some peculiar properties because he apparently, obviously, has the ability to enter and leave a six-sided space without passing through the six sides.
Who knew that it's wow, God's image? So what is God able to do in His image? If it was God Himself in operation or whatever, what does it have to do with dimensions?
And a mathematician can deal with it. There's ways of mathematically dealing with that. To a mathematician that's skilled here, he would argue that it would take at least 11 dimensions to do that.
But of course, they relentlessly just I just we need to understand it. We need to create a model so this and then prove ourselves right. And then of course use that manipulation and Harry Potter just logic and math to just smash into thinking that they can manipulate. And wow, who knew that maybe they could create a little tiny little thing that just so smashes or smashes. I wow, it does so many. The light is just so amazing with it. And yes, I just want to inject it into my bloodstream. Yes, just give it all to me now. All because of the bankruptcy of your soul relentlessly just calling. It's the lifeline to the Father and life everlasting. But no, you want a fleshly life full of experience and lust and passion and this the thrill of it all. Wow! All while giving you a relentless pat in the back, saying, "Wow, I'm fighting and doing my best to just keep things better than got it inherited. I want to leave things better than I got it." What does that even mean? You have pride in what you say you inherited? No. You were sold into bashhood the minute you were born, shown false love relentlessly, and then, of course, thinking you could just rebel against the world, create your own world, you just defiled yourself further. seeking that false love that you were taught to just believe relentlessly in and say, oh, I could just rise above some sort of fantastical ego superhero and just become some sort of mule observer over the elephant who sits upon the elephant and just devours somehow. It's just amazing. Wow, I'm the observer of the observer to the 33rd degree. And wow, somehow that gives you so much power. Wow, what shame.
That the way it seems to be described. Fine, whatever it is, it is. John, in his first letter, in chapter 3, verse 2, makes an interesting remark. He says, Beloved, it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we shall know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. What I hear that saying is that we will enjoy the same dimensionality he has. If I show you a picture of me,
Whoa, who knew that the bride, meaning all the glory for his creation, will not require the delight for the love of the Father just be that brightness. You won't need so this worship of light is just bosh. It's just leading you to just worship the light and the idea that yes, by worshiping the light you will become like God and you yourself only will bring heaven on earth. Wow.
I'm showing you a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something that's more comprehensive. We shall see him as, we will be like him, for we shall see him as he is. So that gives us a glimpse of what the resurrection body that the Bible talks about deals with.
He who overcometh shall inherit all things. Okay? So what do you say? What is this saying? Okay? You will see him because you will be like him and blah blah this and endure the flesh. Because who knew this all this experience that you relentlessly fill yourself with is an experience based in the split from life everlasting. By the doubt that led to self awareness. The doubt of the love of the Father. Was he the was what is being kept? Some sort of hidden a shadow. The shadow, the swarm. But of course there's resolve in God's creation. So in our split we see ourselves fall. In that split we see ourselves fall. And life relentlessly gives forth life so that we may see what? The truth. And endure the fall, meaning the decay of the flesh. That is its resolve from splitting from the life everlasting. And in attempt to create his own is destined for the abyss. Yet life relentlessly gives. And who knew there'd be a generation with a life that finds with the truth and the love of the Father, knows the way, the life, the truth of the love of the Father. And it is for them to endure the flesh. For it is not known to no one when the Father shall come and let that generation be the one where the truth is undeniable. This is what he's saying. You will see him, for you will see yourself as, him. You cannot deny it. Undeniable. But this guy's talking about some dimension.
with. But again, see, we're going into what would be called technically a hyperspace, more than 3 dimensions. And that's not easy to do with. I spend more of my time, as I try to promote the Bible in various contexts.
Oh, he tries, he tries his best.
I spend most of my time undoing the effects of bad science. Most
Oh, of course, we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait. So, what's the overall attempt of science, right? Is it to explain the world man lives in to the best of his knowledge, so that he may create technology that makes this so said life so difficult? What is going on? Isn't science about knowing what is science, if not just categorizing and smashing? It's really a science of manipulation. It's sorcery, witchcraft, and all this, all in the guise of some, unbiased, all for the purpose of mechanical outcome technology, and somehow clean of any sort of influence to any sort of outcome. Yep, that's what science is. Or where there's a demand for a certain knowledge, there will be science behind it. What? Demand? Says who? Oh, the economy. What? What is going on? The economy based on corp entities, a bunch of corpses, fueled by, yes, human currency, the only currency. Yet you fight relentlessly for your flesh, for the rights of this currency that you relentlessly smash. But it's a spiritual battle for your soul. And of course, it's been relentlessly eaten by the worm of this slinky right here.
most of what we're taught in college, not just high schools, is not true. Astronomy is obsessed with gravity, and if you get outside the solar system itself, gravity becomes a non-player. The plasma physicists have been trying to tell us that for years. No one's listening. So that's why we did beyond.
Oh, the plasma theory's been telling us yeah, gravity's nothing. Wow. Yeah, who knew that people don't give a damn because it's actually what they worship. And at this point, any sense of uh, recognition of truth, nobody gives a damn because they say, well, it's my truth. And you can have your opinions, but nobody gives a damn. Because, yes, it's all about boasting and swelling like a hot dog and reaching for that further empowerment that somehow you will seek to relentlessly reward your community, but no, it's just further bashing. Because what are you bashing them for? To get paid better in this bash? To somehow feel better? What? Oh, because everybody is just so poor. Oh, it's just so bad.
Beyond Newton as our, we went into all of that. The electric sky, the fact that when you get out to galaxies.
See that everybody's poor because they're bankrupt in love of the Father, life everlasting, and truth. Could it be?
You're talking about electrical behavior, not gravitational behavior. The astronomy world hasn't discovered that because gravity's instinctive. The James Clerk Maxwell equations are not instinctive. They're very. It takes very special study. They behave very different. And that's what.
Oh, gravity's instinctual, and so the equations don't show. So what?
David Bohm got so coming out of the plasma world, became so fascinated with, and he's the one that predicted at least the possibility that the universe may be really some kind of super hologram. And now
a super hologram. Oh, well, this is what? So from a space, an infinite vacuum, it's all coming down to a hologram. a plasma somehow. It couldn't be that it's just some a fluid, a water above the water. No, it's just and I mean, you can see separation of water in the different so-called densities. It couldn't be that it's just waters. It's water, and we are in a, you guessed it, a vessel.
Now they're beginning to get some suggestive evidence that that may be true. But again, the scientific community continually, well, I should put it the other way, our educational establishment continues to feed the kids stuff that is just not true.
So what is true then? The bosh that you're saying.
The nebular hypothesis, the birth of the planets, provably not true, and yet it's still taught at the college level. If you take a course in astronomy, you'll get exposed to the so-called.
Wow, look at all the nice worlds and spirals. Yes, everything's a spiral. Yes, 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 yes. To the abyss and beyond. Nope, there's no beyond the abyss. The abyss is a swarm. It's legion and has multiple faces and names. Wow, who knew?
Nebular hypothesis. And not that it's shreddable, it's mathematically impossible. You got 99% of the mass is in the sun, and yet 99% of the angular momentum in the planets. How do you get there? It turns out you can't. They were brought here. And our
They were brought here. Brought from where? What are you saying? Because ultimately this person still believes in some sort of marble creation. Some marble creation of God, of what he calls God somehow. Some probably some guy in the clouds. This is what this guy probably is. Yes, he's invisible and not visible and sometimes visible, and I just can't wait to go into those fifth and sixth and seventh, eighth, ninth dimensions.
And what's so interesting, as we learn more of good science.
Oh, he couldn't wait. As we learn more, right? Because to him it's all about knowledge. He's serving two masters. Lukewarm. So what's going on? Is it the more you learn, the closer you will come to the Father, or the further you stray? Because it couldn't be that the further in the Father's wisdom, do you gain anything that you think the world could provide for you? But no, this person believes the former.
It's converging to the very image the Bible tells in the first place. The four dimensions that Einstein discovered are listed in Ephesians 3:18.
May be able to comprehend with breadth and length and depth and height. What?
And you could go on and on, example after example. The zero-point energy, some of the most advanced concepts in the field of astrophysics are in the Bible, but just not.
So maybe able. What's before this, and what's the end of it? Come on. So just where it says breadth, length, depth, height. Who knew that the cities, of course, are described with this? So what are you saying? The measure of angels, the measure of angel. What is its judgment? Is it not? Because all so far right now, according to our knowledge, it's measure of man. Measure of man imposing on an image of a so-called life that he has and is making for himself, yet just crushing all over the life everlasting that is represented in the day in, day out relentless giving forth of life on earth.
Not recognized because of that disjuncture.
The disjuncture. Oh, God bless you all. Of course, God bless us all. You don't think God blesses you despite you saying that? God giveth life relentlessly. So what do you see?